and welcome to my studio. We are making Thanksgiving candle holders or whatever you want to use with our recycled kitchen jars. We're going to be using a Thanksgiving napkin. We usually have one or two left over at the end of the season just to make this simple project, so let's get started. To make our Thanksgiving candle holder, we're going to use an old jar. This is a kitchen jar, spaghetti, or anything like that that you want to use, and you also can use different sizes. But you want to find a Thanksgiving napkin, so it would kind of depend on how big your design is as well. So that's something to think about. So on this Thanksgiving napkin that I had, I noticed that it had 2 layers, and it took me a while to get that second layer to come off. And you want to be careful because it's thinner, but this helps your design lay down better if you can get rid of this second layer and get that all off of there. And so now I'm going to come and I'm going to cut this in half lengthwise because it's going to take more than 1 square to go all the way around my jar. So I'm just trimming that. And then the height of this is a little bit high as well, so I want to get rid of some of this bottom part. So I'm going to take this, and I don't want to get rid of all the design and everything, but I want to get that pretty close up there. So I'm going to fold that over, and then I'm going to trim that part off as well. So right on that line, and you can use your paper cutter to cut it if that's easier for you. And now that we've got that done, we're going to come around and see how far we need to take this part here. You want it overlapping just a tad, not too much. So I'm going to do it right about there. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut that there. Again, we want to keep that straight of line as possible so that if it does show through that you don't see a crooked line. These are great because they're so inexpensive. You usually have a couple of napkins left over from the previous year, and then just your throwaway jars, your kitchen jars. So I'm going to use Mod Podge. It doesn't matter if it's matte or satin or gloss. It's just up to you, whatever you prefer. But you never shake your Mod Podge. You always want to roll it so that you don't get the bubbles. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to apply this on kind of quickly with a brush. You want to use an old brush. You don't want to use any of your good craft brushes. But we want this all wet when we go to put it on here, so we want to do it kind of quick. And if you would be more comfortable, you can put a little bit at a time, but I think overall, because you've got to line it up and everything, I think it's easier to do it all at one time here. So we've got it almost all the way here. Okay, so we're going to line this up, but remember we want this part on our top part, so we're going to start with this other part, and I kind of lay my jar down, and I want that as even as possible, but where it goes lines up kind of with the bottom, and it can go past the bottom just a little bit, the bottom of the jar. And I'm going to go ahead and press that down a little bit, and then just keep on going there. Okay, so we've got that on. I'm going to press along those lines a little bit, And if this was a little bit thicker, you could straighten this out a little bit more, but I think it looks just fine. Kind of not straight, just kind of laid down. I'm going to pull the bottom part underneath that jar, and I want to get this seam right here. So we're going to make sure we do this seam. The one thing is you don't want to pull it and it break on you, because it can. So that's one thing that we want to do, is just keep that as straight as possible. And any areas like that that are sticking out, you can put that underneath and pull that down over the top of that and get that laying down as much as possible. Now this little guy is a little bit higher than the jar. So what I'm going to do is I'm underneath that bottom lip of the jar, and I'm just cutting it with my little scissors. This is going to get covered up, so we don't need it to be absolutely perfect, but if you stay right on that rim up against that part, it will turn out pretty good. And we're just going to bring these straight up. And if your Mod Podge is dry, you may have to do another little layer, but that's okay. Okay, now once we've got that on, see how pretty that is, and that's going to be nice because the candle is going to shine through it, but I like the crinkly look. That is kind of nice on it. You can go ahead and do another layer over the top of this all the way around now, just to seal it off, to get all your edges in really, really well. And if there's any big creases that you need to clean up as well, you can go ahead and straighten them out with your brush as you're working the Mod Podge at this time. Then once that's done, set it down, let it dry really, really well, and then we're just going to finish it off. I did go ahead and add some little leaves to this open area because I thought it just added something more to it in the design. And I want to put it on just kind of like these are right here. So I'm just going to take these little leaves off. And this is while my Mod Podge is still wet. And I'm going to put Mod Podge on the back of the leaf. And I'm going to want to kind of overlap that area so that seam doesn't show up quite as much. And you can, if you don't have little leaves, you can cut leaves down that you have, or you can make them out of paper. And a paper punch about this size would be really good too. So get these both on here, and I'm going to come back in and push these down a little bit. Once this sets up a little bit, they're a little bit puffy, but that's okay. Let it dry for just a little bit. The first one should be pretty good to go back over by the time I get it ready here. Okay, and then my last one. And I always save my wires and different things like that. I could put acorns on that and use that in a decoration or something fun like that. So things just to think about. And this last guy I'm going to put kind of here, and that just kind of gives it a little bit more fall feel and kind of adds into it. Gotta lay this guy down just a little bit there. And don't be afraid to really put some Mod Podge over the top of those. I'm really kind of putting those on heavy. And don't worry about your rim. We're going to cover that up. But if there's any part of the paper that needs to lay down, hit it again at this time. And then we're going to let all of that dry. We're going to do our handle with floral wire, and I picked mine up at the Dollar Tree, and it's nice and thick, but it's easy to bend. And what I do is I take this little part that we're going to bend here, and we'll get him started there. And we're going to run it around the rim. This part isn't going to show up, so we're not worried about it being really pretty. We just want to try to get it as secure as we possibly can, because we're going to cover that up. So I'm just going to try and bend that down a little bit more. I would worry about it if I was trying to make it a little bit prettier, but I'm not. So you also could put a little bit of hot glue there to help hold it into place if you wanted to too. So I'm going to try and figure out about how long I want that, and I'm going to cut it, and we're going to start just kind of wrapping this and doing fun stuff with it. But I'm also going to take some beads, and these kind of look fallish, kind of a little bit maybe American Indian. So however you think you would like the color. I'm seeing if I think I'll stay away from the turquoise and just stick with kind of the different brown colors. And I do it any way I want to. There is no right or wrong. But by bending them up and down, what you're going to do is create places for the beads. So that is something to kind of think about. The beads can stay in. Bend that guy a little bit too much. Okay, now I can bend him back. And then I'm going to run this guy under the opposite side. So you want a little bit of room under there, and what we're going to do is just pull him up there and bend him so that he stays. Now make sure that you've got this to the area that you want to show up the most. So if we've got that kind of all right there, that kind of gives us a part. I should have glued him a little bit more right there. Okay. So we've got our little kind of handle on, and we're going to glue a little bit of Thanksgiving garland on. I'm going to move that glue around here. And that'll help do it. So I've just taken a little piece of fall garland, just enough to go around, but this is just going to give it that little pop that it needs to really brighten it. So we're going to start that part in the back underneath. Also going to hold our wire in place. And if you need to overlap that a little bit or glue that in then a little bit, then go ahead and do that as well. I'm going to take a little bit of raffia and make a bow. It's up to you if you want to put this on or not. You can do whatever you wish, but I think this kind of gives it just that extra kind of fall feel, I guess is what I'm after here. And you can put on one side, or you could put it on both sides, whatever you kind of wish. I'm going to go ahead and trim his tail here. So I'm going to glue mine on there. Do I want it there or do I want it there? I think I want it over on this side. It's out of the design a little bit more. And then I kind of decided that I wanted a couple of little acorns there. And you can decide, we've got some acorns for sale that look really cute here, or if you have some real ones as well to use, that's good. So I'm going to go with some real ones this time as they roll away. And I'm going to put that guy on the bottom and that guy on the top. But that just kind of gives them an extra little nutty feel. Ha ha ha. Because isn't that really simple? And then all you're going to do is take your flameless candle. You can even use the bigger ones if it fits the hole. And place that right in there. If you didn't want to do the candles and you didn't want to put on the handle, you could use these to serve, hold your silverware, your forks, your knives, your spoons, different things like that. So there's all kinds of fun things that you can do with that. I hope you enjoyed this fun and inexpensive project. I kind of wanted to show you how the backs turned out. They turned out really cute. I also am going to glue one on to give it a height difference. I'm going to glue that on with E6000, and then you have that up on a pedestal, and that's just a simple candle holder that you can pick up from the dollar store. So if you ever have any questions about a project, please email me at art@miriamjoy.com.